Hi, shalom friends. Having the right perspective on life is crucial, very, very important. And if I were to ask you to put on a scale how much suffering is there, and then contrast that with how much moments of happiness or goodness, well, it depends on your perspective. Some people would say there's no contest, there's so much more suffering than good. Yet, with tweaking a little bit, with analyzing a lot, with being hopeful and optimistic, one could present just the opposite scenario. There's far more goodness in this world than there is evil and suffering. But one thing I could sort of say, most people would feel that one act of kindness in an ocean of cruelty doesn't amount to much. And that's the statement that I would like to challenge. You know, one of the most charming stories in the whole Bible, the whole Chumash, is about baby Moshe. We have a 3-month-old baby born in the land of Egypt. The setting is horrible. The Jews are being oppressed. They are servants, slaves, in a country where people seem to be inhuman in cruelty. And they work very, very hard. And things gone from bad to atrocious. All baby boys are to be killed. Are there thousands of baby boys killed? Tens of thousands? Many hundreds? The Torah does not tell us. But clearly, the environment is of intense cruelty towards the Hebrews. And as we open up the Chumash, we read about a woman, we don't even know her name, a daughter of Pharaoh. She comes to bathe in the Nile, and she sees a baby floating in a basket. And in a moment of compassion, she decides to save the baby. Now, if we were to stop over there and continue the story, she saves the baby, she finds a Hebrew, and she says, look, I just saved one of yours, so here's a baby. And the Hebrew woman says, oh, thank you, you're so wonderful, you're so nice. Goes home trying to think, how is she going to support and save this baby? And then wonders, what did we accomplish? So if the baby grows up, what will the great baby be? A slave. What kind of a life, what kind of a destiny is it to save a child to grow up to be in abject poverty and to have no rights? Thank God that story did not follow this way. Instead, that baby that was saved was Moshe. And we know the great Moshe saves his people, and to a certain extent, saves the Egyptians from being Egyptians. He actually shows them that there's a proper way to live, and there's a sense of right over wrong, and virtue over evil. And since the birth of Moses, some 3,300 or 3,400 years ago, without exaggeration, billions of human beings have had their life ennobled and made better because Moses, or Moshe, our teacher, was born. And Moshe, our teacher, led his people out of slavery. And Moshe, the lawgiver, gave us the 10 Commandments, or really, more correctly, the 613 Commandments. And the source of all goodness and morality of this world can be traced back to Moshe. And Moshe's very existence came because of what? One act of compassion. Again, if we were to imagine interviewing this lady and saying, you just saved a baby, of what lasting import is that? You know, you saved one baby, but today 9,000 other babies were murdered. So what have you accomplished? Maybe she would shrug her shoulders and say, I don't know, I just felt bad for the baby. But we know what she accomplished. That one act of kindness was of supreme importance. Until today, even in the secular year of 2016, we are directly impacted because of her act of kindness. And therefore, I believe that it's obvious one of the lessons which the Torah is sharing with us. Do kindness. Stop thinking about how effective this kindness will be. Don't think of the bigger picture. There's so much suffering, so what will I accomplish? One act in comparison to 10,000 acts, 100,000 of acts. You don't know that one act of kindness could be much more than one act. It could have ramifications which are beyond counting as the story takes place. Well, the thought that I'm conveying to you, I hope, stands on its own, but I'd like to add just a little bit of a surface coating. This one act of kindness, why did she do that? What was it that attracted her attention of the many babies that she might have seen? I don't know, but she might have seen the day before or the day after, or perhaps even in the same day. She chose to save this infant. Why? And the Torah very, very interestingly says she heard the voice of a baby crying. And actually doesn't say the word baby. She heard the voice of a lad crying. You know, I was thinking, most people, at least from my experience, if a baby is crying, you sort of stop. I mean, there's a little infant that's in distress. You have to help this little infant. And then when you see children crying, our heart goes out to them. And somewhere, and I don't know where it is, something changes. And when a kid cries, we say to the child, stop crying, don't be a crybaby. The very same cry that used to elicit from us deep feelings of compassion and deep feelings of concern become irritating. Stop crying. Now, we could go off on a tangent and to try to analyze why that is, but I would like to go back to what I said. She heard the cry of a child. I think it's a very noisy world out there. And we often do not hear the cry of children. Children over here does not necessarily mean people that are young. It means people that are not mature enough or do not have the capability of taking the action necessary. The cry of a child means that I cannot fix something, or I don't understand something, or perhaps I don't have the power necessary. That's the cry of a child. And if you're sensitive enough to hear that cry, pay attention. You could change that child's cry. You could change that cry into triumph. He attracted your attention. You have resources to enable this person to grow. Help him. There's many ways to say this, so let me be blunt. Jewish people are crying out. Many of the Jewish people are children in knowledge. They might be very, very accomplished in secular education, and they might be accomplished in a profession, but they're children in Judaism, and they are crying out. They're looking for meaning, and they're looking for substance, and they're looking for what they call spirituality. And our job is to hear the cry. And yes, you could say, well, there's so much ignorance or there's so much indifference. So how by me paying attention to my neighbor, buying him a mezuzah, inviting him for a Shabbos meal, just sharing a thought of Torah. How is that going to change the condition of the Jewish people? And you never know. You never know which child you change. That very neighbor can be a teacher to his own family, can be a teacher and a leader to his own community, might be instrumental in actually changing the face of Jewish education because he'll be motivated to create Jewish education. Our job is not to predict the outcome. Our job is to seize the opportunity and the moment. Let's hope and pray that this, in terms of Jewish destiny, this is the moment that we are supposed to seize. The concern for one Jew to another. And in that merit, we will once again be privileged to meet someone of the stature of Moses who will lead us out of exile.